as a kid, I used to do debating, and part of this debating came the unprepared part as well. And I had something in my pocket to have ready and to apply to no matter what the topic would have been. And this was from an Afrikaans book from Marietta Martins, the writer. And in Afrikaans, she said, Die lewe draai die hemel en die hel in een doek vir my toe. And in English, that translates to that life folds heaven and hell in one cloth, in one bag, together for you. And I could never have imagined how much this little piece that I kept with me to have ready at whenever I needed to do an unprepared speech, how much that would actually become my career, my service, and what I am doing today. And part of that as well, I remember how satisfied I felt like when I completed a maths sum. You knew when you got to the answer. There's no two ways about it. It's either right or it's wrong. And I loved that satisfying feeling when I knew I got to it. And I would never have imagined that I'm actually doing maths every day and helping people complete an equation to find the one side and the other side. But why this quote and maths come together for me and why it's so significant for me is when I went through life, after I studied and I had my theoretical knowledge gained, then practical life came. And how it played out for me was the day that I got engaged, my mother got ill. And it ended up being such a difficult illness that she struggled for 6 months. And at that time, I was engaged. I couldn't wait to show people my ring and celebrate with Emil. But at the same time, it was the lowest low of my mother being really ill and me constantly flying from Cape Town to Johannesburg. As my father told me, come and greet your mother, she's busy dying. And it ended up that my mother passed away in December after a 6-month-long illness. But at that time, I battled with two extremes of life, being so excited to start my future and being so sad of finishing a specific chapter, knowing that at some point my mother is going to die. And then I had the same experience. Even before that, what actually happened was I went on outreach. And for the outreach, I was creating the Bible studies and I was sitting in my father's study on the computer, basically busy with such a holy moment and feeling like I'm doing such important work. And at the same time, robbers came into our house and held us hostage. So again, I experienced the two extremes of feeling like I'm busy with something so important and something else at that moment comes and feels like this is the least important thing or the worst thing that can happen to you in that moment. And then another moment that I had like this was the day when my daughter was born. So my mother-in-law came to the labor ward with me as I was in labor that morning, and she was still there and my parents were there. And later, when it was time for little Emma to be born, we tried to phone my mother-in-law and she didn't answer. And after I gave birth to Emma, I realized that she passed away in the same hour that my little girl was born. So we joked with Emma and said to her, Grandma, kind of tag, you're in, I'm out with her. But in that moment, it was such an extreme experience again to become a parent in one moment and in the same moment lose a parent. And I know throughout life that these experiences are not particular to my life only. I know these experiences are what everybody experiences in your own life. You could relate to this of how you experience two extremes at the same time. And I also know that it's not a new thing for people. In Ecclesiastes, Solomon wrote about it years ago of how we have a time to cry and a time to laugh and a time to gather and a time to throw away and a time to mourn and a time to move on. And Waldorf Emerson even wrote about this in his essay on circles of the opposites of life. And Einstein also said that for every action, there is an opposite reaction, an equal opposite reaction. And I would never have thought that this opposites in life would have been what my career was built on. So when I started attending at the DeMartini Institute and learning from there, the way that Dr. John DeMartini put it together made the world sense to me, saying that love is the synthesis and synchronicity of complementary opposites, two opposing things coming together. And all of our troubles, all of our struggles, all of our challenges in life comes from trying to eliminate one side, trying to only have the one side. So Buddha also stated it beautifully that as humans, all our suffering comes from attaining the unobtainable and avoiding the unavoidable. So we try to only have pleasure and we try to avoid all pains. And with this, in this life, we try to separate the two that we actually can't separate. And the one comes in to help us to come back to balance again. The one extreme, only searching for the one extreme, makes us pull in the opposite extreme to come back to balance. So, as much as we can't escape this in life, these two opposites in life happening, both of them are there to teach us about love. So if you think in terms of growth, if you only had support, if your parents did everything for you, you would become completely dependent on them. You wouldn't know how to do anything for yourself. But if you only had challenges and one after the other struggles, then you wouldn't survive. You would literally break. So we need both of them. Growth lies at the border of support and challenge. So trying to eliminate one of these in your life is trying to eliminate growth in your life. And that would basically keep you stuck. That would keep you who you are at the same level on a plateau day in, day after day. And to me, that kind of sounds boring, to stay stuck at the same place and to stay the same person. So growth is inevitable. Growth is part of our journey. And the quicker you can see both of these sides, the quicker you grow, the quicker you move on to the next level. So we explain this to our kids in terms of video games, and we tell them that each level of your life, something new unlocks for you. Every chapter, there's a new level that can unlock. And we as adults can do that for ourselves as well. The sooner we move through, see both these opposites, the sooner we do the math sum and see the equation, see the one side and look for the opposite side, the sooner we get to play at different levels. So in essence, I would love to leave you today with what is the next level in your life and where are you stuck in only seeing the one side and you're not admitting to the other side. And how can you complete this math sum? How can you complete the equation and go and see the opposite side and move on to the next level? I would love to hear from you.